right, we're going to call the committee meeting to order, and if you'll note your presence on the electronic voting board, please.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I know we have a lot of members that are going to be bouncing back and forth between the courts committee and others. So just remind each of you to leave your proxy. We have some bills that we're going to be taking up today that I'm sure you'll want to be counted on. Also, we have a large crowd here today, and I just want to be able to accommodate the patron and his supporters here. So we're going to take that bill up first. And as soon as that bill is completed, we will have about a 5-minute presentation from the Commissioner of DMV on the updates of the Real ID and all the things that he has after that bill. But the patron, if Senator Surville will come forward, we're going to take up your bill, which is Senate Bill 621, and you'll make your presentation, and each side will have 5 minutes to follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's on.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I think you all remember this bill because we've heard it now. I think this will be the third year we've heard it. But from my perspective, Senate Bill 621, which is what we're, right, 621, it's an opportunity to improve our law enforcement, public safety, and increase our tax revenue in this state by nearly $1 billion without raising taxes. It's a very unique opportunity, I think. Just to give you, again, a little bit of perspective, the district I represent is about 29% foreign-born. It's about 23% Latino. I had a Hispanic town hall in my district about 3 years ago, and I went and I talked for about 20 minutes about Medicaid and transportation, transit, education, et cetera. Then I asked for questions. First 3 questions I got were, when is the state of Virginia going to give us driving permits like Maryland and D.C. does? This issue is the #1 issue in the immigrant community in Virginia, and I found that out very quickly. I put a bill in 2016 when I was elected to the Senate, 16. The bill, along with Delegate Bloxham, that bill was referred to a study. The Department of Motor Vehicles assembled a committee, a group, I guess, of about 30, 40, 50 different stakeholders, something like that, had multiple meetings. They came out with a big, long, fat report and a big, much more robust bill than the one I had drafted, and it's the bill that's now before you. The bill that is in front of you represented DMV's recommendation in end of 2016. The identical legislation in front of you right now is being carried by Delegate Bloxham in the House of Delegates. It was carried by him last year. I'm going to make 4 points about why. Well, first I'm going to tell you what it does. Number one, all it says is that the Commonwealth of Virginia, the DMV, can issue temporary driving permits which last for 1 year to anybody that can show they've paid their Virginia taxes, they passed the Virginia driving test, and they pay the fee. The fee is also a fee that is designed to cover all the expenses associated with the increased staffing that's going to be needed to deal with this bill. So completely revenue neutral. And if you all want to increase the fee even higher, I'm sure we'd be happy to increase the fee higher so that the taxpayers be making a profit off this system instead of just being held neutral. So the 4 points I want to say, or the points I want to make here, is that this would affect there's about 400,000 people that potentially would benefit from this. And this has been studied by numerous groups because it's already been done in a bunch of states. The first point I'll make is about taxes. If 400,000 people file a tax return in the state of Virginia, Commonwealth of Virginia, that show $35,000 of income tax, that would result in an additional $702 million of income taxes paid into this state. You just go Google on the state income tax calculator, type in $35,000. It's $1,700 of taxes a year. Multiply that by 400,000 people. $702 million. We get those people to file their tax returns in Virginia and claim only $35,000. That's nearly $750 million. In addition, one of the consequences of this is a lot of folks have to get their cars titled and licensed over in Maryland. Those folks be paying, they'll start titling their cars in Virginia, and they'll start paying Virginia auto insurance premium taxes. That's another several $100 million. If we could incentivize people to come to Virginia, take our test, get a license, get a temporary permit, and start and file their taxes here, it would generate $1 billion for us. So it potentially is a huge source of new money for us without raising taxes. Number two, safety. Every state that has done this has shown a decline in collisions. It's mainly because folks are required to learn the rules of the road in this state. They're not the same here as they are in other countries. I was just in Peru last month on vacation with my family. The road markings are different, the signs are different, the lights are different, the rules are different, and the rules aren't really followed quite as much there as they are here in terms of people driving. But every state that's done this has shown that when you train and test people, they drive safer. Number three, there are fewer hit-and-run collisions. There's been studies done that look at hit-and-runs, and they estimate that over 40% of hit-and-run drivers don't have a proper license. In the states that have done this, hit-and-run accidents go down, which means that more and more people find out who hit them, and they don't have to rely on their own uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. These incidents get taken care of appropriately when there's collisions and people stop and report them, and then the proper insurance companies take care of them. Number four, in states that have done this, you see increased cooperation with law enforcement. When people have government ID, they're much more likely to come forward when they see something illegal happen, or when them and their spouse get in a domestic violence situation. So you get better law enforcement coordination. You don't have witnesses that don't show up in court. You have things like that happen when people have proper government ID. And so we'll have safer communities. Number five, we'll have lower insurance premiums. If we have more people paying into the insurance pool, we have 400,000 more people paying into insurance, that spreads the risk across more people, which means lower premiums for everybody, because you don't have collisions happening where there's people that aren't paying into the system covering the liability. So we have lower insurance. And lastly, and I would say the most important thing is we'd have improved quality of life for a lot of families and children in this state. Right now, a lot of folks just want to take their kids to the doctor, take them to school, take them to soccer practice, and they can't do so without fear of being arrested. And while the federal government continues to dither over whether or not what they want to do, there's a lot of people here that are present in our state. Them and their children ought to be able to be able to just drive a car without fear of being arrested by our police because they don't have a temporary permit to drive. Now, last thing I want to say is the DMV has done a mock-up for me. Maybe our pages can you guys hand this out? Of what a potential temporary permit would look like, because there's been some questions about what these things would look like or how they, whether they might be confused with a normal driver's license. And so this is one version they did, and and they can change the colors. And the one I'm handing out to you is more of in pink. The traditional Virginia driver's license is in purple, but you can see on here it says not valid for identification for federal not valid identification for federal, voting, or public benefit purposes. So it's not Real ID compliant. It's not something that could be used for voting. It's a different color. It wouldn't be confused. To me, and this is what other states have done. The other 12 states that have done this, they do the exact same thing. If the design is an issue, I'm sure the DMV would be happy to talk about. We can talk further about coming up with a better design, but there's very few reasons that I've had identified, and nobody's come to see me that opposes this, that we ought not to do this. I just think it's the right thing to do. I would hope the committee would act favorably on it.
Great. Okay, you have witnesses. Is any questions from anyone on the committee first? All right, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Servell, first of all, I just want to acknowledge how much time, effort, and energy Senator Servell has spent on this particular issue. And, each of us up here on the dais are sympathetic and understand, and we've heard testimony year after year after year. One of the things that Senator Servell and I have been working on is the type of ID that would not be confused with the federal ID. And I'm just going to show some cards that I have, Senator Servell, where it shows the background is completely different than a Virginia driver's license. As you can see, the color is solid. One of the concerns that I personally have had has been how similar the driver's license that's been proposed, how it's very similar, even the one that's proposed, and we've been working draft after draft after draft trying to get this right. And the challenge has been the little hologram that's on there for security reasons so that it can't be duplicated. So that's one of our biggest challenges that we still have at this point. The second issue that we've had and that we discussed last year was this particular issue of it being more of a federal issue. There are things called international driver's license, which I understand are only 30 days, which doesn't really help a lot of you all in here, and we understand that. But it is a federal issue, and I do have federal contacts, and I've mentioned to Senator Survell, I'm happy to, reach out to Congress, to our congressmen. Really, that's where this bill should be heard and vetted, in my opinion. It is a federal issue as far as determining legal status, as far as legal status is concerned. The other concern that I have is that if the state of Virginia issues this becomes a state-issued government ID, which has some implications on that. One of those being that if it is a Virginia-issued ID, the person that you're giving that to is assuming that the state of Virginia has verified the identity of that person. So my question to the patron would be, what have we done? If we create a Virginia driver's license, what have we done on our end? What kind of verification to verify the identity of the person on the proposed driver's license?
I'm sure the DMV could talk about what they would do or how they would do it, but I can also, before they answer, and I'm sure they're happy to, I could tell the senator from Chesterfield that this legislation was vetted by the state police, by the sheriffs, by probably numerous, I think the chiefs of police were involved, and the legislation that ended up coming out, I think they were satisfied with the provisions that were in it in terms of verifying somebody's actual identity. I'm sure the DMV can answer your question about exactly what kind of documents or process they would use if this were adopted.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Chase, one of the things that this bill does, it says, is any applicant has to go through the same process as you would go through to get a regular driver's license, with the exception of proving legal presence. So they would have to prove identity. Now, yes, they would bring a foreign passport, and sometimes it might be difficult to verify that foreign passport, but we'd have to have something to prove identity, something to prove residency, Social Security number. They also would they'd be required to take all the same tests that you would to get a driver's license. So they've got to take the knowledge test, the skills test, eye test. One additional thing, as the patron said, they'd also have to prove that they've paid taxes to the Commonwealth. But we would vet them the same way, with the exception of vetting legal presence. We would vet them to make sure they are who they say they are, they live where they say they are, and they have a Social Security number.
Okay, thank you.
Let me catch you real quick with that comment. But once this is issued, this is an official government document. Virginia is going to say, based upon what we've found, you are who you say you are, and you are where you say you're living. So they now have an official government document to say that. Would that not be true and accurate?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely, that would be true and accurate, just like any other driver's license. And the bottom line, if that customer can't prove their identity, then they're not issued the credential. So yes, we would put them through the same vetting process that we do for anyone who gets a driver's license, with the exception of asking them to prove legal presence.
So you're telling me that DMV is going to be able to go back to the country which they're originated from to make sure they are who they say they are?
If we can't, Mr. Chairman, then we won't be able to issue it. And as to the question about the color, what we were hoping to demonstrate is that we can work with our vendor, Canadian Banknote, and come up. This is just something that we got done in the last 2 hours. So the bottom line is there are a lot of color palettes that we can use. The only challenge we've got, Mr. Chairman and Senator Chase, is to change the background, because there are, and I can't go into it because I see the press is here and I don't want people to understand all of the security features that are just in that background, because it's not a solid color. If you look, there are lines, and if you put that under a microscope, you would see there are words in that line, and we just couldn't have the same security feature on this credential if it was a solid color. Now, can we change this yellow to pink or to blue, a pastel color? Yes, ma'am, we could. We could not turn it to that dark red that you showed, because we would lose all the security features of it. But could a nice pea green? Yes. And in fact, our juvenile IDs have a green tint to it. So the bottom line, we can work to make sure it's very distinctive without losing the security features that we believe need to be in it.
Thank you. Senator Favola, I think you had a question. Is it for the patron or for Commissioner? Okay.
At the end of the day, the license that you would issue would not confer any additional rights or privileges than a regular driver's license? Is because you've actually put a statement on here, not valid identification for federal voting or public benefit purposes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Senator, and far be it for me to correct someone, but you call it a driver's license. It's not. It's a driver privilege card. And absolutely, one of the big distinctions between this and a regular driver's license is what you've just read: not valid identification for federal voting or public benefit purposes, which is what the Senator's bill requires be printed on the driver privilege card.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up, the advantage of this, and the only statement, if you will, being conferred, is that the individual bearing this driver privilege card has passed a driver's test, and there is some confirmation about the name and the residency. Other than that, that's what the extent of this driver privilege card. So it ensures that individuals who have it at least can drive safely, have passed a driver's test.
Mr. Chairman, the answer to that is yes, with a couple of exceptions. It also will say that we've verified the Social Security number. But yeah, again, it's a driver privilege card, which by definition means you may use this to drive, and it does not say. Obviously, you cannot vote with this. You cannot use this for benefits. It's a driver privilege card.
I mean, Mr. Chairman,
Senator Favola.
You're right. It would not be really.
I will just make a comment. I see no harm in moving forward with a driver privilege card and a lot of public benefit, as well as the benefits to the individual, because individuals need to be able to drive to work. They need to be able to live their lives in a safe manner. And I think having a driver privilege card enables them to do that, and ensures me, as a member of the general public, that individuals on the street actually do have the credentials to be driving. With all the conditions and safeguards we just talked about, I think this is a very reasonable proposal. And I'm prepared to make a motion when you're ready.
I think he has some speakers. Do you have speakers that?
Over here.
I mean, we're going to have 5 minutes
Right.
for those that are in favor, and then 5 for those that are in opposition.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make one really 10-second point?
Good.
Okay, just to follow on what the DMV commissioner said, the other thing that you could not do with this is get on an airplane, because pretty soon you won't be able to get on an airplane without a Real ID compliant ID under federal law. So just another thing to note.
All right. So 5 minutes. So
Mr. Chairman,
start
members of the
now.
committee, thank you for your time. My name is Maria. I'm here with the Regina Latina Advocacy Network. I'm here to speak in support of this bill. My younger brother has epilepsy, and at the age of 2, he had his first seizure. It took hours for my parents to get to him because they didn't have any quick means of transportation. transportation. They didn't know how he was doing. At one point, they didn't know what hospital he was taken to. And a driver privilege card would prevent a painful experience like this from happening again. It will allow them to take him to his doctor's appointments for treatment, and it will allow them to provide and support my family even more. And a driver privilege card would also mean a safer Virginia for us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Hilda Espinosa, soy de Stafford y soy de Casa.
Good afternoon. My name is Hilda Espinosa. I'm from Stafford, and I'm here representing CASA.
Señores, quiero pedirles hoy que se toquen el corazón como padres y como madres, porque nuestra comunidad se está viendo muy afectada ahora con las personas que no tenemos licencia. Como padres nos estamos viendo frustrados porque no podemos tener acceso a instituciones, a la misma escuela. Nos piden una licencia, una identificación oficial.
I would like everybody to touch their heart because we don't have access to driver's licenses. We're not able to take our children to school. We're not able to take them anywhere because we don't have licenses.
Por favor, necesitamos manejar para tener mejores trabajos, para poder asistir a las consultas con los médicos de nuestros hijos.
Please, we need the licenses because we need to go to work, to go to the hospital for our kids' appointments.
Les pido también que vean que si ustedes nos aprueban la licencia hoy, vamos a contribuir a la economía de nuestro estado. Gracias.
And the reason why we want this is to contribute to the economy of Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the panel. My name is Phil Story. I'm an attorney with the Legal Aid Justice Center and speak in support of this bill. So I just want to clarify a couple of things. So as the Senator Chase mentioned, these cards would not be Real ID compliant. That does not mean that they would be in violation of the Real ID Act. There is nothing in the Real ID Act that prevents states from issuing Real ID compliant driver's licenses and identification, and also issuing identification and driver privilege cards that would not fulfill the purposes or the requirements of the Real ID Act. The Real ID Act only states that an ID that meets those requirements, that a federal agency can accept that for official purposes. A federal agency would not be able to accept the driver privilege card for official purposes, but the federal government has actually issued a regulation in the CFR specifically addressing the state's option, if they want to issue a separate ID card that would not be used for official purposes for federal identification. Thank you.
Got a little less than 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Minsu. I handed out all the papers to you, which is basically a brief summary of what I'm going to say today. I lived in Virginia for 16 years. I'm currently a DACA recipient. My DACA is going to end in February 2019. Without a driver's license, I wouldn't be able to go to work, actually have a good job around the Annandale area. I sometimes commute all the way to Nova Manassas campus for certain classes. Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer West. I've been a practicing immigration attorney in Richmond since 2002. I would like to note for the committee that the Commonwealth is already issuing driver's licenses to non-citizens, including permanent residents and non-immigrant visa holders. So I trust that DMV already has procedures in place to make sure that that documents are properly reviewed. While this is an issue that concerns immigrants, it's not an immigration issue per se. Immigration is determined by Department of Homeland Security and is a federal, that's a federal thing. This is purely a state matter, and states are the proper entity to determine safety on roads. Thank you.
So you don't think it's a federal issue?
No, sir.
Even though Virginia is going to give them a government ID?
The determination of who drives on the roads is purely a state issue.
Sure, I understand that, but if they had a pathway by the federal government, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
I agree, sir. Until then, we need Virginia to keep the roads safe for everybody. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Berta Yepes Garcia. I am a mother, wife, and also a DACA recipient. I'm here to support the privilege card. I have firsthand experience the worry, anxiety, and fear that is being to drive without a license. I'm sorry. Sometimes I question myself. The some things that some of us could take for granted, such as driving my daughters to their soccer practice. I would like to thank each and every one of you today for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my family, my friends, my neighbors, and community. Together, we can build a great America and a great Virginia and a greater America. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll just state your name and your support for the bill.
Hi, I'm Emma Cleveland. I'm here to speak on behalf of one of our members of SEIU 32BJ, Fermina Ayala, who travels 28 miles to get to work on bus and metro every day. It takes him over 2 hours, and he's unable to pick his kids up from school when they're sick. So please do take this into consideration. Thank you.
Senator Carrico, members of the committee. My name is Edgar Aranda. I am the chair of the Virginia Coalition of Latino Organizations, and this is the third time that we are here because this is a need. If just ask everybody, please raise if you support driver license or driver privilege card, you will see that everybody supports. And also, we are Virginians. We live in this Virginia, and we want to make safe Virginia. The only way to do it is if we have driver license privilege, so that we know the rules of the road, and I think that will be beneficial for everybody. So please don't forget, we are also Virginians. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Beatrice Hamberman, and Chairman Carrico and members of this Senate committee. I am a vice chair of the Virginia Coalition of Latino Organizations, but I have been working in Hampton Roads for over 25 years, cooperating with the police departments in my region. I had a conversation with the police chiefs in my localities, and they actually read the benefits, actually, that are part of this proposal. And from the standpoint of the community to be safe, they see that it will aid their jobs, having the fact that we have drivers from other states, like North Carolina and Maryland, that actually are paying these fees to get driver licenses. So people are driving in Virginia. And this is not an identification card. We clearly define that this card will have in the front stated that this is only for driving purposes. And I think the police officers will be aiding their work, having to stop a person and knowing that they're really providing their real name and a real address. So for the safety of America, I think it behooves our community to do its job. Thank you so very much.
Quickly.
Good afternoon. I'm Father Jack Paziello from Sacred Heart Church, Sacred Heart Center. Every Sunday we have over 1,000 Spanish-speaking people who come to our 4 masses, and I look out upon them, and I know that at least 2/3 of them have been driven to church to exercise their right to practice their religion by people who don't have cards. That means don't have licenses. That means at any place between their houses and the church, they could be stopped. And all they want to do is praise God, as all of us wish to do. So I'm in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of all of you, and thank you for everything that you are doing for us, for Virginians and for USA. I bless this floor that I stand up right now because it's giving too much freedom and no fear. And this time I represent LWCC, Liberal Women of Chesterfield and beyond, and I represent the Hispanic community in that organization. And I just plead to you for the permit to drive in. I had a prison ministry too, and I see so many things, so many fears. But my plea today is the last 70 years I was working for American families, babysitting. I take the kids to the school, to sleeping over parties, to everywhere. And I was working with, my younger girl was 90 years old the last year, and I took it to the hospital and everything because our American families, they were working all the time. We want to take care of them. We don't want to be in fear. just taking care of them, but it's for secure for everybody, not just for the immigrant community. It's for our loved ones, American people too. I plead to you not to let us keep in living in shadows. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in opposition to the bill? All right, seeing none,
Thank you for the extra 5 minutes.
I think I gave you the extra 5, so. You're welcome. I think there's a motion. Was there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Senator Cosgrove.
I have a substitute motion to pass by indefinitely.
Is there a second? Senator Newman will second. All right. All in favor of passing by indefinitely will vote aye on the electronic voting board.
Seven ayes, 6 nays.
7-6, the bill is passed by indefinitely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think you need to explain what that actually means. Thank you. All right. If we could clear the room real quickly and so we can move on with our docket.
Vamos allá arriba, vamos a hablar, a explicarles qué pasó.
Commissioner Holcomb, if you want to come forward, give us about a 5-minute update. You can give it just a few minutes, let the room clear out a little bit. Let one clear out and one fill in. That's okay.
Oh, big issue.
Placards. Okay. All right. Which ones are? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Commissioner Holcomb.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Rick Holcomb, DMV Commissioner. And first of all, thank you for the opportunity of talking to the Joint Committee, Joint Senate and House Transportation Committees in December to more thoroughly go into our budget issue and Real ID. I'd like to take just a few minutes to quickly update you on some things that have happened since that last update. First of all, the 2018 budget that was introduced contains several very important new benefits for our employees, including pay raises and health care, which are very well deserved for our state employees. But unfortunately, those additional benefits come with some cost to the agency. Combined with the additional technology charges that the 2018 budget also has for us, we will incur additional $3 million of expenditures in fiscal year 19 and a full $10 million in fiscal 20 and thereafter. Mr. Chairman, I'm obviously very optimistic and very heartened that there are so many members of both houses who really have committed to trying to make things better for the DMV. As you know, and you were one of the first I visited with, since last summer I've met with 37 members, primarily of Senate Finance and House Appropriation, all committing to making sure that they can work and to make sure the DMV has the revenue necessary to provide the service that all of you want and all of your constituents deserve. I'm very pleased that Senator Wagner and Senator Newman have introduced budget amendments to get the conversation started about DMV's budget and the solution. Senator Wagner's amendment adjusts the $10 title fee by an additional $5. Equalizes the registration transfer fee from $2 to $4. Both of these amendments modify fees to better set them at what today's cost is, because both fees were set in the 80s. Actually, the title fee has not been adjusted for inflation since 1980. The $2 registration fee has been the same as it was originally introduced. Senator Newman's amendments increased the DMV vital record processing fee. Again, very successful program that unfortunately is great for Virginians. We've sold over 500,000 vital records, but it's costing us money to provide that services to the vital records customers. The amendment would adjust the processing fee to more accurately allow us to cover our cost. The amendments on partial year refunds, registration discounts, and transfer fees were all passed by the Senate last year, and so we certainly hope that y'all will take the same action, plus some of the additional amendments. Senator Newman would also like us to study road test privatization, seeing if we could capture the same type of efficiency and cost savings for the Commonwealth as we did when we privatized driver improvement back in the 2000s. Altogether, the amendments that Senator Wagner and Senator Newman have put in would bring us an annual additional revenue of $22.88 million. Similarly, Delegates Garrett and Ingram have introduced the same amendments on the House side, so the conversation will start on that side as well. Delegate Sickles has gone one step further and wants to completely adjust the title fee up to $22 from $10, which is the adjustment for inflation for a fee that was set originally in 1980. I thank both senators for their leadership, and I look forward to working with the Finance Committee and this committee on the ultimate solution for the DMV. Because, as you know, we are the face of Virginia. We're the face of state government, and we want to be able to maintain our current level of service for your constituents. Mr. Chairman, very briefly, I updated you on Real ID. In December. A couple of things have happened. First of all, we have gotten an extension of enforcement until October 10th, 2018. We will start issuing the first Real ID compliant card October 1, 2018. Enforcement from the federal side does not go into effect until October 1, 2020. So if you do the math, Virginians will have a 24-month period to come into the DMV to get that Real ID compliant card. As the chairman and the committee knows, we're making it voluntary. It's not going to be mandated to do that. So if you want a card, you come in, you reprove your identity, legal presence, Social Security, and residency, and you're issued a card. Mr. Chairman, certainly DMV has spent a lot of money over the years on this unfunded federal mandate, and we've got a little bit more to go to get over the gold line.
The introduced budget does include a $20.7 million line of credit, which we can borrow against to finance the balance of what we need to do to stand the program up. And in support of that, or to be able to pay that back, there will be a one-time $10 surcharge if you want a compliant card. If you don't want a compliant card, you will not have to pay that additional $10. Certainly, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I would ask for your support on both the underlying budget fix as well as the Real ID fix. And, Mr. Chairman, more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, first, let me say thank you for all the work you do and your employees, the job that they do for the service of the Commonwealth. And I know this has been a kind of a tough year approaching with the shortfalls that you have identified, and hopefully through this session we can address those. Any questions of the Commissioner? All right. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. We're going to start with our list. Senator Black, I think you have two bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first thing that I have is Senate Bill 84, dealing with temporary fleet vehicle tags. We have line amendments, and perhaps those could be reported.
Staff, you want to report those line amendments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 61 of the introduced version, after E, insert, the department is authorized to charge a reasonable fee for the temporary registration applied for under this section, and any fees collected by the department pursuant to this section shall be transferred to a special fund in the state treasury used to meet the expenses of the department, F, period.
All right. Is there a motion? Second by Senator Newman. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Bills before us as amended.
Yes, sir. What this bill does, there are several companies in the Commonwealth whose job is to move corporate fleets and vehicles from other states into Virginia. They do not own the cars. They don't rent them. They don't sell them. Basically, they're just they're movers. And what they do, they deliver the vehicles, they license them, and they register them. What this bill does, it simply allows those fleet operators or fleet delivery companies to issue 90-day temporary tags, so that they do sort of a one-stop shopping thing. They get the car registered for the fleet. They have temporary tags that take them through for 90 days and get them delivered. This, for example, there's talk about Amazon coming and bringing some huge 50,000 employees, I think. Amazon will not just tell its folks, go on out, grab a car, and head on down to Virginia. It will employ companies like PARS, which is one which is here and will testify. But basically, they'll say, we will pay you, move the cars for us, and they like to get everything done. They like it to be licensed, registered, so that they can start using them right away. We have worked very closely for a number of months with the attorneys and officials at Department of Motor Vehicles. They were the ones who suggested the line amendment, which takes care of the financial impact statement. There is no need for a budget amendment because it is self-funding. And in any event, it's going to allow for the rapid expansion and increased hiring among these companies. I cleared this with Don Hall because I want to make sure there's no conflict with our dealers. He says they are good to go.
I think we
back here somewhere.
Is anyone in the anyone on the committee have a question, concern about the bill? All right, anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of the bill? How about anyone? Okay.
Yes. We've got Jim Cristiano, who is the head of PARS Incorporated, who owns
Okay.
one of the companies.
All right. Welcome.
Assistant.
Welcome.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to kind of define what we do in our company. I'd like to introduce Lori Rasmussen as the president and majority stockholder of our company. I am Jim Cristiano, the founder of PARS.
Okay.
In short, we move vehicles throughout the United States for large corporate leasing companies and corporate customers that will have cars for their sales staff and some operational people. They don't want their people being involved in anything. We just move it, get it all ready for them, give them a set of keys, full tank of gas, washed, ready to go. Many times we do have to do license and title work, and that takes some time for everybody to coordinate the paperwork. That's why we're asking for the use of a temporary plate.
You're kind of like a big dad. That's what I do. Hand them the keys, full tank of gas.
Concierge service.
Say good.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anyone, would you like to speak?
No, I just would like to thank you for having us here and just say the important thing for us is to make sure that we do this through the legal process. And that's why we've been working with Senator Black and the Department of Motor Vehicles to ensure that we're doing this in the proper way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else in the audience like to speak to the bill? All right. There's a motion and a second to report the bill as amended. All in favor vote aye on the electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13-0, the bill reports. Your next bill, Senator Black, is Senate Bill 125, and if it is favorable to Senator Favola, we can roll your Senate Bill 117 into that bill, which is identical to the value engineering bill that you have. All right, is there a motion? There's a motion that we roll Senate Bill 117 into Senate Bill 125. All in favor say aye. All opposed? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a fairly straightforward bill. There is a process called value engineering.
Before we do that, I think we have a substitute that we need to get before
Yes,
us.
there is a substitute. Apologize, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the substitute. All in favor say aye. All opposed? All right, now, we're ready to roll.
Okay. There's a process called value engineering. It's a good process whereby on large contracts, we have a totally different set of eyes that reviews the project and looks to see whether there's some better way that we could do it that would save money. We exempt contracts below $5 million because it does cost money to run these studies, and it also it causes us several months of delay in each project. Loudoun County has requested that I introduce this bill, which basically raises the trigger. We were going to raise from $5 million to $15 million, but VDOT preferred that we simply go to $10 million, and so we adjusted the bill so that it comports with VDOT's preferences, and it is now set at a $10 million trigger. What this does, it just simply says that on these relatively small projects, we eliminate the delay and the cost. There are provisions that exempt design-build projects. This is consistent with the way that we do non-highway projects through the Department of General Services, and also we have no. Let's say, I apologize. But in any event, on some of these others, there's not a requirement because it's consistent with either federal rules or the Department of General Services. So in any event, it's basically just accommodating the trigger, bringing it up to date. I think it was 2001, the last time that we set the trigger amount. And so it would be my pleasure that you.
Do you have anyone here that wants to speak to the bill? All right.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Gore, on behalf of Loudoun County. I think it's been framed well. This number has been static since 2001. So obviously, construction costs have gone up significantly since then. Value engineering is a useful tool and can find savings, but it should be focused on larger projects where you get the bang for the buck, not on smaller ones where really the cost of the study has been explained can outweigh any benefits that are gained. So this really makes the process more efficient and will be very helpful.
All right. Anyone in the audience like to speak in opposition? Anyone on the committee like to ask any questions? There's a motion to report the substitute in a second. All in favor, vote aye on the electronic voting board.
Thirteen ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 13-0. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Black. Next is Senate Bill 141, Senator Peterson's bill. At his request, he asked that the bill be carried over till 2019. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded that we carry Senate Bill 141 over until 2019. On our sign-up sheet, Senator Mason. Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Let me just vote real quick. All those in favor, vote aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13-0. The bill is carried over. Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Senate Bill 532, and there is a substitute. Thank you.
All right. There's a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
So I'll tell you real quickly what we're trying to do, and then with the substitute, some adjustments made by DMV for some verbiage, really. But so what we're trying to do here is the law, as the General Assembly defined it, said that if you're selling cars, not on a car dealership, but you're selling cars, you want to sell them in the front of your house, you could sell 5 a year. So the city of Hampton's had a couple of problems. That they said, well, Monty sold his 5 a year, and then my wife Pam was going to sell her 5 a year. My daughter Taylor Ann's going to sell her, and you get it. So what we're trying to do here is make it very clear that you could sell 5 a year per property, not per person. The adjustments, I thought my mother was the only English teacher in the crowd, but DMV obviously has a couple because rather than saying more than 5, they wanted us to say 5 or more. I'm okay with that. I hope you are. And then there was also a prerequisite that the title had been issued only to the owner, and that was problematic. So the car must be titled, but not necessarily to the owner trying to sell it in front of the house. There is one final important point at the end that all along we've been asking for a form that the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board would come up with that we would give to the property owner and say, hey, you're in violation here. So lines 79 to 82 just say, come up with the form so we can make it very clear what's going on, what the problem is, and have it to be without question.
Okay. Is there anyone on the committee have questions of the patron about Senate Bill 532?
Just one, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Senator Mason, are you saying that you're a better car salesman than your wife or your daughter?
I can't sell crab pots,
I'd like that on the
Mr.
record,
Chairman.
by the way.
And Senator Cosgrove, I'm not good with crab pots, but I think I'd be all right with cars. But I don't think the Mrs. Mason will let us sell any out front of my house, I'll tell you that.
So, and this doesn't only just apply to Hampton, does it?
No, sir. No, sir.
So, Ms. Carrico, if she doesn't get a crack at her 5, I sell my 5 and it's over with.
It's over.
Okay. Senator Favola. Let me ask anyone in the audience if they'd like to speak in favor of the bill. Anyone in the audience like to speak in opposition? All right. There's a motion. Is there a second? All right, there's a motion and a second that we report the bill. Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, I'm going to make a substitute motion to pass by indefinitely.
All right, there's a substitute motion to PBI. Is there a second? All right, it's been
Mr. Chairman,
moved.
just to speak briefly to that.
Senator Cosgrove.
Senator Mason, on the face of this, looks like a good idea.
Right.
But even in my city of Chesapeake, where we have a subdivision ordinance, there are homes that they're situated on 5 acres, 10 acres, even 3 acres. They're very deep lots and that type of thing. I think this may make some sense in the more urban areas, but this impacts every locality throughout the Commonwealth. And so I think that's well-intentioned, but it's way overreaching.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond? Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, Senator Cosgrove, it's not so much the size of the lot of the locality. This is if you want to sell cars, you should get a car dealership and sell cars, used or otherwise. If you want to sell cars off your property, we're trying to give you the benefit of the doubt to let you do it. And really, it's existing law today. We're just trying to clarify it and make it more enforceable that we only do it 5 per property. So I'd still ask you to support the bill.
All right, and this has been around for a long time. It's called curb sales.
Yes, sir.
It's been in existence for a while. It does make it statewide, but there is a motion to PBI. So all those in favor to PBI the bill will vote aye on electronic voting board.
Four ayes, 9 nays.
All right, the bill fails to PBI. Those goes back to the original, the bill to report. All those in favor say aye or vote aye on electronic voting board. I'm trying to figure out who I'm voting for here. You got it right.
9 ayes, 4 nays.
All right, bill passes.
Thank you,
9-4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that very much. Second bill is Senate Bill 877, dealing with the Hampton Roads Transportation Commission, and there are line amendments. You want me to read them? You want? Okay.
Sorry. Chrissy, if you'll read those line amendments for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 39, on the introduced version, after the strike Hampton Roads. Second is on line 39, introduced after transportation, unstrike district. Also on line 39, after commission, unstrike of Hampton Roads. And on line 42, after Portsmouth, strike the city of Suffolk.
All right, is there a motion on those amendments? It's been moved and second that we adopt the amendments. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the bill's before us as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment just makes a nomenclature of the name of the board consistent, and City of Suffolk's not involved in it, so it just clears that up. This essentially puts a member of the House and a member of the Senate on the board. We've never had a legislative presence on the board, and when I came here, we started talking about HRT and transit issues generally, and I had a couple senior members say to me, you know, this is the first I'd heard of it. I haven't heard much about this over the years, so we really believe that there should be a member of each body on this board to keep track of things we have, like what you've been hearing a lot about the fiscal cliff coming up, a lot about the bond issues we have dealing with transit in our future. Now, as you know, it's 1-to-1, you know, provided it gets out of here, it may come back with a little adjustment as the other chamber likes 2-to-1, but right now we're just asking for one member of each body to be on the board.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience, or you have questions of the paper? All right, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Senator Mason,
Yes, sir.
you and I have talked on this.
Yes.
Currently, there is no legislative representation on the board of HRT, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Cosgrove, that is correct.
All right. Are you aware of how much money the state actually gives HRT each year?
Mr. Chairman, I would say, Senator Cosgrove, I guess you're getting ready to tell me.
All right. Mr. Chairman, this isn't quite fair to ask the questions because I already know the answers. The state gives HRT in excess of $20 million a year to run the buses and some light rail. I'm not going to ask him. I'll speak to the bill when it's time.
Okay, all right. Does anyone do you have any witnesses that want to speak?
I mean, it's fairly straight.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, Senators, my name is Joe Dillard. I'm here on behalf of the Transportation District Commission of Hampton Roads, asking that you do support this bill. As Senator Cosgrove has already pointed out, we do receive state fundings. Currently, our board is comprised of gubernatorial appointees from each of our 6 cities that we serve, local elected officials, and a DRPT representative. So this just give us more oversight, or not saying that it's needed, but the state funding that we do have coming down from you guys to kind of get hands-on with our public transportation in Hampton Roads.
All right. Any questions? All right. Anyone else? All right. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. And sir, we've discussed this in my office, and I appreciate you being here to speak on the bill.
Thank you.
So you're the one I got the $20 million figure from.
Yes, sir.
Also, is it true that HRT has almost 300 administrative positions?
Somewhat. I brought Ron Jordan with me to kind of explain that situation, because I know we had a conversation, and it's basically going by how we describe or categorize our employees. Okay. I will call him up to give you an in-depth answer on that question.
Well, before Mr. Jordan comes up, can you tell me how many bus drivers we actually have at HRT?
Right now we have over 1,000 employees. We have over 900 bus operators.
Okay. All right.
All right. Senator Favola, I think, has a question.
I don't know if Mr. Jordan wanted to answer.
I don't have a question. I was just going to make a motion.
All right.
Chairman, thank you for the question, Senator Cosgrove. It's been batted around quite a bit. The confusion we think emanates from the fact that, as you well know, the Hampton Roads Transportation District Commission has created an operating company, and the commission itself has no employees. And the operating company internally divides the employees between union and non-union. They're a little, as Joe indicated, there are about 1,050 total employees, 920 union members. They're the bus drivers, the customer service people, the on-street supervisors, and the mechanics. And so that leaves about 100, and there are 125 governance and management positions. So that's about a 12% workforce in administration, which is fairly consistent within the parameters for an agency like the transit company. In addition, some of those positions perform a dual role of staff to the commission for planning and things like that, as well as for the operating agency. So I hope that helps.
Senator Cosgrove.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Jordan, I've seen the organization chart for HRT. There's a lot more than 125 people on that. Can you explain the difference?
I'm telling you, I'm explaining what I was told this morning.
All right, I'll be glad to share that chart with you, because it is in great excess
Yes,
of
sir.
125 people.
And obviously, we welcome the opportunity to sit down and
Okay,
walk
thank
through
you. And by the way, I am supporting the bill.
We appreciate that.
All right. Anyone else in the audience like to speak in support of the bill? Okay. Anyone in the audience? Okay.
Just a quick chime in. Chairman, I'm Lisa Guthrie with the Virginia Transit Association, and we do support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience in opposition to the bill? All right. Seeing none, is there a motion? Senator Favola. It's a motion and a second that we report Senate Bill 877. All those in favor will vote aye on your electronic voting board.
$13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have Senate Bill 446. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 446 is one of your special license plate requests for the future farmers of America. And there are a couple of line item amendments that I would like to offer, Mr. Chairman, as you consider this.
Okay. Staff will report those line amendments.
Thank you. On line 5, on the introduced version, on the title after legend, strike the remainder of line 5 and through 1927 on line 6. The second amendment is on line 13 after legend, strike the remainder of line 13. And the third amendment is on line 19, strike believing in the future of agriculture since 1927.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if I could explain those line items. After we had this bill in, Commissioner Holcomb came to me and
Trying to
said
get
we were saying
future-
too much on the license plate. So I asked him if we could have a bigger license plate, and he said that wouldn't work.
A
So
running billboard. Here's my motion and a second on the amendments. All in favor, vote aye, or say aye. All opposed? All right, now you have the.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not speak to the bill. I do have several members here, representatives, I'd like to come forward. Beg the indulgence of the committee if they would come forward at this time, our FFA members.
And you do have all the required, the
Yes,
450.
yes, we're squared away on that. And I was going to wear my FFA jacket today, but it wouldn't go on.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Couldn't get it on.
I was gonna sympathize with you.
Mr. Chairman and Senate Transportation Committee, my name is Jesse Martin. I'm the chairman of the Virginia FFA Foundation, and it's a distinct privilege to be here at a very historic moment for Virginia FFA. We serve almost 10,000 students across the Commonwealth of Virginia, and our mission is now and has always been to strengthen rural communities, develop leaders in agriculture, and continue to support the great agricultural industry here in the Commonwealth. This is a critical step in the right direction for us to being able to provide more educational opportunities, more leadership development to those students, and really opening up a whole new realm of Virginia FFA. We thank you for taking the time to have this in front of you today. We ask that you support us in this process, and we'll let you hear from people that are far better than me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
My name is Bailey Carpenter, and I'm serving this year as State Vice President of the Virginia FFA Association. I joined FFA in 6th grade, and I'd kind of heard about it before, but I didn't really know what all it had to offer. And during my FFA career, I participated in contests that helped prepare me for careers in agriculture and also in science, technology, engineering, and math, ranging from livestock evaluation all the way down to environmental and natural resources. Those contests help me not only to better my herd and produce more quality livestock to send to market, but also with speaking to consumers. Without doing those contests, I wouldn't be here speaking today. By passing this bill, you will be helping fund our members to help us work towards our goal, our mission statement of promoting premier leadership, personal growth, and career success for our members. Thank you.
Where are you from, Bailey?
I'm from Rockingham County.
Rockingham. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Armstrong, and before I started working for the foundation, I was an FFA mom. My son, much like Bailey, started in the 6th grade. He's getting ready to graduate this year, and because of the skills that he learned in the FFA, which I'm not sure he would have learned anywhere else, he's ready to start his life. He's ready to do job interviews. He can speak in front of a crowd. He knows how to hold a meeting. And he wouldn't have learned those things had he not been involved with this organization. In addition, I'm married to a lifetime alumni, an American degree recipient, and he wouldn't be where he is today. Actually, he's presenting in front of a couple of committees this week. So I know what the FFA can do, and that makes me passionate about their mission. So I hope you'll support this bill and help us continue our work.
Thank you. All right, anyone in the audience in opposition to this?
I move to report this bill as amended.
It's been moved and seconded to report the bill as amended. All in favor say, or vote aye on the electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Committee.
Senator Howe.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 874,
Senate Bill 874.
and there is a line amendment.
All right, staff, you can report the line amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 15, after the stricken language vehicle, insert pedestrians or.
All right, is there a motion on the amendment? Is there a second? All right, all in favor of the amendment, vote aye, or say aye. All right, all opposed? Okay, the bill's before us as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several months ago, I got an email from a couple in my district. They're an older couple, and they live in Reston Town Center. which is, as many suburban and urban areas, very densely populated in a small area. It's very small in Reston. It's about 12 square blocks, but nonetheless, it's very dense with pedestrians, cars, lots of motion. And their concern is that the drivers are not signaling that they're going to make a turn when there are pedestrians present, but no cars. And if you look at the code now, there need to be cars to have the requirement to have the signals. So what this is trying to do, it's actually a pedestrian safety measure that when you make one of these turns, that you need to signal, even if it's pedestrians and not cars.
Right? Is there any questions of the paper? Senator Newman.
Janet, if does the bill, as you have written it now, require you to do it even if nothing is around? In other words, even if there is, you're in the middle of, Grundy, Virginia, and nobody's around, or only if there's pedestrians there?
I don't think it's if nobody's around, because it says it needs to be visible to other drivers or pedestrians.
I think
So
it
if
would
there's
require,
nobody-
I think it doesn't.
It does?
It doesn't specify anything. It just says you shall signal. So I don't think it would require anybody to be around it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that wasn't my intention.
I understand.
I don't think it's a bad idea to require, but that wasn't what I was trying to do.
Senator McClellan.
I'm not sure if your interpretation is correct, then your interpretation would be correct for current law, because it says you shall give the signal required in this article. Today it says plainly visible to the driver of such other vehicle. She's now just saying plainly visible to pedestrians or other drivers. So if the shall is causing you to have to do it even if another pedestrian's not there, then under current law, the shall would require you to do it even if there's not another vehicle there.
Let me ask counsel, how would you interpret that I feel like it requires drivers upon backing, stopping, or turning, regardless of whether it's anyone around that you have to signal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my opinion, the signal requirement in the code as it is currently is contingent upon whether another vehicle may be affected by such movement, and that's the language that was stricken. The way that it's written now, as I interpret it, would require a driver to signal anytime he intends to back, stop, turn, or partly turn if he sees that such movement can be made safely. And the signal that he gives has to be visible to pedestrians or to other drivers. By adding the pedestrians, or we're just saying that the signal has to be visible to pedestrians.
Mr. Chair?
So before you ask the question, I think it would be better for us, instead of trying to do something on the fly sitting here in the full committee, is to let the patron at least have a week to figure out, from what she's explained to us she's trying to do. I don't think the bill does exactly that, figure out a way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
If everyone's amenable to that. All right. Do we need a motion to take it by for the week? Yeah, without objection, we'll take it by for the week. All right, thank you. Senator Ruff.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 873 is an economic development bill that ended up in transportation. A couple of years ago, the Economic Development Partnership in the city of Danville recruited a British company called Overfinch to come to Danville. in that process, they never explained the issue of titling. But any car, but they are the only dealer of Overfinch. So any car that comes to the United States has to be titled in Virginia. What they do is they put an enhancement package on Land Rovers. And those are custom built and ordered. And if the customer is in California, then the package and mechanics, installers may go out there to put it on, or they may have a separate contractor to do that. But it makes no sense to take the California car and bring it to Virginia for a $16 inspection and then ship it across the country. So what this bill would do would allow that to bypass that process. And I think that there are some folks.
Yeah, I think there's an amendment, though.
Well, before we get confused on the amendment,
okay.
I'd like to Ashley Allen come up and speak to the bill.
Okay,
And
all right.
So if there are any questions on it.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Julie Allen, and I work with Overfinch North America, located in Danville. I'm here today in support of SB 873 and would like to thank Senator Ruff for working with us on this legislation. What we do is we create bespoke Range Rovers. We create more luxurious product than they already are. And our issue is that if we purchase the vehicle out of state, because our clientele say they want a Land Rover with 15 different specifications on it, and we have to go to the general market and find that vehicle for them and then create the Range Rover product for them, it may not come here. As Senator Ruff said, if we had a customer in California and we sourced the vehicle in Arizona, it will stay out in the western part of the United States and we'll take care of the modification in that area. We are just looking to not have to inspect that vehicle that isn't coming to the state, won't be registered in the state, and won't be titled here. It is titled to us because we're an independent dealer, and there are 3 sorts of areas that we have an issue with our business model with what's currently there. Being an independent dealer, we have to title the vehicle to us. We also cannot buy from a manufacturer, and I apologize, number 3 is escaping my mind at the moment. So anyway, we can't inspect that vehicle if it's not present at our facility. And that's all we're asking for at this point, is to be in the same exception as there is for a new motor vehicle, which we by definition cannot sell. Without SB 873, it's going to become extremely difficult for us to continue operations in Virginia because there is the threat of fines and losing our independent dealer license because of the inability to get these inspection stickers for vehicles not coming to Virginia and not being registered in Virginia by the owner. Thank you for your time, and we hope you'll vote for SB 873.
All right, thank you.
At this point, I don't think there's any opposition from anyone. The Dealers Association asked us to add an amendment that really is not connected to this, but is part of the same section of the code. Currently, if, say, a dealer, a corporate...
I want to buy a red Ford pickup from a dealer
and they don't have it in Richmond, but they have it in Charlottesville, you have to get it
Inspected
re-inspected a second time in where it arrives, which is kind of a waste of time because it's already been inspected and it's put no mileage on it.
So there's no objection to the line amendment that would allow the current dealers to be able to be exempt from having to inspect that vehicle twice.
Correct.
Okay.
If
I could just get staff to report that line amendment, that would give clarity to the current dealers that are now inspecting vehicles that they have in their possession, but yet you may want to buy one from a dealer in Grayson County and you're in Richmond and they're just shipping the vehicle up to have to repeat that inspection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 19, after the Commonwealth, strike "or" and insert a comma. And the second amendment is on line 22, after Commonwealth, insert comma, or Romanet 3, new motor vehicle that has previously been inspected and displays a valid state inspection sticker.
All right, is there a second? All in favor say aye. All opposed? All right, and then that puts you in the, I think Delegate Marshall has a bill in the House that this has all already been dealt with, so that puts you in the same posture as that bill.
That's correct.
All right, any questions? Anyone in the audience opposed? It's been a motion and a second to report as amended. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board. Oh, sorry.
Thirteen ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Cosgrove. While Senator Cosgrove makes his way to the dais, there is my bill that's going by for the week, which is 805, without objection. And then there is Senator Deed's bill, Senate Bill 692, that we debated last year, dealing with the issuance of disabled placards that he's asked to go by until 2019, with a letter from the chairman to the chairman of the House and the chairman of the House committee to look at the issuance of these disabled parking placards.
Discovered last year was that this is a much bigger issue than this bill addresses.
Right.
And I as I recall, last year we sent this to the Commission on Transportation Accountability, but they didn't really have time to take a look at it. And I was just hopeful that we could provide some clarity to the law over the long haul if we took an look at these issues.
All right, we'll
I'll move that we carry the bill over with the letter.
Letter from the chair. Yeah. All right. There's a motion and a second to carry over with a letter from the chair. All in favor, vote aye on the electronic voting board.
Thirteen ayes, 0 nays.
That will be carried over 13-0. Senator Cosgrove, you want to start with 213?
I'd be glad to, Mr. Chairman.
And just so you're aware, whatever actions we take, finance has asked for it to be.
Yes, sir. That's certainly reasonable. Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 213 is brought forth. This company, his name is ATAC. It's a fairly fascinating company.
There's a substitute. Let's get that before us real
I think
quick.
we ought to do the substitute, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there a motion on the substitute? Is there a second? Moved and seconded that we adopt substitute to Senate Bill 213. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Now we're ready to roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. ATAC currently resides in the city of Newport News. It is actually a global company. It's a very unique company, Mr. Chairman, in that it actually has fighter jet aircraft that are maintained and flown from there in support of Navy and Air Force tactical operations. The company owns 2 Kafir Israeli jet fighters. It has 2 F-16 Falcon fighters on the way. It has also leased from Canada several Hunter fighters. And what this company does is actually goes out and acts as aggressors against the F-18 jets out of Oceana, and also the F-22s and other jets out of Langley. The problem is, Mr. Chairman, that basically the Kafir and the others that are actually owned by ATAC are considered non-taxable, they're public aircraft. But because ATAC is leasing the Hunter jet fighters from Canada, basically they have been subject to a tax that helps to go to the Department of Aviation. What this bill would do, Mr. Chairman, it would prospectively eliminate those Hunter aircraft and consider them public aircraft because they are used solely for tactical operations in support of the United States Armed Forces. It is not retrospective. It doesn't require any rebate from the Department of Aviation to the company. That's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions from the committee? All right. Do you have people that like to speak? Michelle, do you want to speak?
Michelle Sutherland is here. She can speak to the bill as well.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Michelle Satterland on behalf of ATAC. We thank you for taking this up before you today. This is an important bill for us. We've been based in Newport News since 1994. 90% of our employees are veterans, and we ask that you support this bill. It will further the aviation industry in Virginia. We are the only company doing anything like this in Virginia, so it's an important bill.
Thank you. Bud.
Mr. Chairman, Bud Oakey, representing the Virginia Aviation Business Association. We support the bill.
Thank you. Afternoon.
Chairman, I'm Charlie Croson, representing the city of Newport News, and we support the bill.
Thank you. All right.
That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone in opposition to the bill? All right.
Mr. Chairman, it would have to go to finance.
Yep, Senator Marsden, I'm sorry.
There we go. Thank you. Senator Cosgrove, the normal course of people doing business with the government, if they lease or use equipment to do so, they pay taxes on that. Although this is sort of a direct military kind of association, up my way, a lot of people do business with the Department of Defense and rent equipment to fulfill their obligations under a contract and what have you. What is the unique nature here that would allow these to be not taxed?
Mr. Chairman, I'd answer the senator. This is not a machine and tools tax type of issue. These are actual flying vehicles that are maintained in Newport News that are used in direct support of tactical aircraft operations for the United States Navy and the United States Air Force. So basically, it's not support equipment. They're actually paying tax on all the maintenance tools and the facilities there. But taxing the actual aircraft itself just because it's leased when they don't have to pay tax on the owned aircraft they own, basically there's a dichotomy that's just not quite equal.
All right. Seeing no opposition and seeing no one else in the queue to speak, is there a motion on the bill? And remember, this has got to go to finance. All right, there's a motion to report and refer to finance. All those in favor will vote aye on electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you like to do 307 or 129?
129.
All right, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 129 basically corrects a technical oversight from previous legislation that inadvertently removed the city of Chesapeake from the pro rata road cost provision of Virginia Code 15.2-2242. Basically, it's a tenet that will allow the original developer of a development to actually be paid in the future from people that build onto the extra onto that development. If they have paid $1 million up front for additional roadway, and another developer comes up and they're going to build along that same area, then their pro rata share would actually go back to that original developer. So basically, it really doesn't impact the city one way or the other. It's just a fairness issue for the development community. I've worked with the development community. Therefore, I brought this at the city of Chesapeake's request.
Okay. Any questions, patron? Anyone from Chesapeake here to speak to the bill?
I don't think so, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone in the audience in opposition to the bill? Just one question. Do you see this Christmas tree growing any?
I really don't, Mr. Chairman. Basically, Chesapeake used to be there when they changed the verbiage. Chesapeake was just left out.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. I'm sorry, Senator Favola.
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. I guess this would be incorporated into an ordinance adopted by the city. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're really enabling, this is enabling legislation, just for the record. Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's a motion and a second on Senate Bill 129. All in favor vote aye on the electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 13-0. Senate Bill
307?
307.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 307 deals with unmanned aircraft systems. It authorizes the Virginia Aviation Board to promulgate regulations and rules.
We have a substitute real quick.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. I apologize.
Is there a motion on the substitute?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt substitute. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, now we properly have the bill before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, what the substitute does is basically gives the Department of Aviation the ability to promulgate regulations dealing with unmanned aerial vehicles, i.e. drones. And we're not talking about Predators or Global Hawks, but we're talking about just the smaller unmanned aerial vehicles in non-FAA controlled airspace. The reason this is important, Mr. Chairman, is we don't want to get too involved in getting the minutia of drones, because we are actually on the precipice in the Commonwealth of Virginia becoming a world-class leader in aviation, unmanned aviation technology. But that being said, I had discussions with VCU just here recently. On Monday, there was a medevac flight going out of VCU Medical Center. It could not launch because there was a drone flying in the airspace. In addition, there were 2 helicopters that were coming back. They could not land because that drone was still in that airspace. There's really nothing that regulates how those things are flown in particular airspace. That's a real public safety issue there. Certainly, that can mean somebody's life. If they're being medevaced, it's important. What this is it's not onerous. It just allows the Department of Aviation to regulate drone flight in the Commonwealth. Mr. Mark Flynn is here. He's the new director. If there are any questions of the department, he would probably be the best one to answer them.
Okay. Have any questions of the patron? I just want to say that I represent a county in Southwest Virginia that is actually very aggressive in this initiative, I guess you would say, being the first to deliver a cargo of medication to a remote medical center. So I think it's probably somewhere we need to be looking at and in the direction we need to go. So those in favor would like to speak to the bill, just step up.
Mr. Chairman, Bud Oakey with the Virginia Aviation Business Association. We actually worked on this throughout the year. It's important, as we have looked at the growth of use of UAS in manned airspace, it's also important that any aircraft operating in the national airspace operate under the same set of rules. With the new administration, they put in a process to help do that. Since they are the FAA's regulatory as such, the VABA supports this strongly for the safe operation of UAS.
Thank you. Anyone else? Michelle?
Michelle Satterland on behalf of the Unmanned Systems Association of Virginia. We support this bill and look forward to the ongoing conversation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, David Skiles with the Vector Corporation representing DJI, which is a drone manufacturer. We very much appreciate the opportunity to work with Senator Cosgrove on this legislation. As you all know, there's a lot of regulations coming out at the federal level. We're still waiting on a FAA reauthorization bill. Now that Congress is open, maybe that'll happen. And we're waiting to see what the federal landscape will look like as it relates to unmanned systems. And so Senator Cosgrove has worked with us in adding some language to this bill that would allow a work group to study unmanned system regulations as it relates to the Commonwealth of Virginia. We look forward to participating in those discussions over the interim and appreciate your time.
You made me nervous, David. I thought you'd found a way to toll those things.
Senator, if you give me enough time, we just might be able to. Thank you.
All right, anyone in the audience opposed to the bill? All right, it's a motion and a second that we report the substitute of Senate Bill 307. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board. Sure.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Senator Chase, I think you've got some witnesses here, and we'll just take up your bill, Senate Bill 701.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 701 is a special license plate for Alzheimer's Association. I'd like to take this time to thank Katie Reed, who is here today and present, who has worked very hard on behalf of this constituency. Virtually every family is touched by the challenges of Alzheimer's disease, and Katie has worked really hard to pull together over 450 orders already. After the first 1,000 sales and plates, $15 of the $25 per plate will be deposited in the non-reverting fund for the Alzheimer's Association. And I'm going to cut to the chase.
Any questions of the patron? All right, is there anyone that you have here that would like to speak to this bill?
Sure. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Katie Reed, and I am an assisted living administrator out of Louisa, Virginia. My grandmother passed away with this disease in 2000. Ever since then, I've kind of been working in the field. My grandmother, my honorary grandmother at my facility, I actually held her hand on Tuesday when she died. So this is very personal to me. My mom's here. It's her mom that led this to fruition, if you want to say. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and sharing with us, and it's a noble cause that you're trying to do here.
Thank you.
All right, I have to ask, is there anyone in opposition to this? I didn't think so. There's a motion and a second that we report Senate Bill 701. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
I'm trying to vote yes. Did I
You're
get it?
good.
Okay, got it. Good. Thanks.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Deeds. Sure, you can.
Okay, I've got Senate Bill 700, which is pretty straightforward. The problem is vehicles that pass school buses. In 2015, there was a pilot study in Albemarle County that showed there was as many as 6,000 incidents a year of vehicles passing school buses. Nationwide, there are about 6 kids a year that get killed this way. But enforcing the legislation as it's currently written is pretty tough. And so this legislation allows DMV to release vehicle owner data of vehicles that don't stop for stopped school buses upon request of a local school board, of a video monitoring system operator, a local school board, to release it to a third party. This is a request of Albemarle County. I think somebody from Albemarle is here. There may be others who support the legislation. I think that some folks from Fairfax County are interested in this legislation as well. I'm basically just trying to enforce existing law requires a release of this information to somebody that can use it.
Okay, any questions of the patron?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. Chairman, I asked Senator Deeds, if indeed a school board requests this information and the information is then provided, is that information then subject to FOIA for anybody to get?
I don't know the answer to that. I was mistaken when I said the school board has to request it. The school board has to contract with somebody, has to contract with a third party, and the third party requests it. So I don't think the school board does the actual requesting, and since they don't, I don't know that it would be subject to FOIA, but I'm not the expert in that area.
We have counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look on lines 314 to 315, it does say that the information provided to the operator shall be protected in a database with security comparable to that of the department's system and used only for enforcement against individuals who violate the provisions of subsection A. So even if it was subject to FOIA, which I don't think it would have been in the first place, it would be protected by that language that's in the bill.
All right, and I guess my question for council is there any other, do we do this on red light cameras?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that we do.
I think there's language in this section, earlier in the section, and I'm not looking at the bill with a second, but I think there's language that says that it's released on red light camera information. In subsection 21, it's in on lines 167, I think. The traffic light monitoring system operator, let's see. Is that? I think it's released.
Mr. Chairman, it's on line 167. We do already release this information to traffic light photo monitoring systems. So this is just duplicating the language that we use.
We're mirroring photo red. So if you love photo red, you'll love this.
But Mr. Chair, you know, it's already the law.
Well, I understand.
We're gathering the data. We're just not able to use it unless we can get the third party that's been contracted to get the information and release it to the law enforcement.
All right, I think, I'm sorry, is there another question? Senator Marsden.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, if you're releasing to somebody who is not a law enforcement and they make the determination to release it to a law enforcement agency, does that put them in the situation of making decisions about who gets forwarded, what data gets forwarded and what data doesn't?
So if Dave Marsden goes by and they like Dave, they may not release it. If Bill Carrico goes by and they don't like Bill, they may release it.
That's sort of the nature of the question there. Does this put kind of enforcement decisions in civilian hands, if you will?
Somewhat. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the other question, I was following up on that vein of thought. With photo red, basically what happens is the third party gets that information. It actually has to be checked over by a police officer before any action is taken, but it is a civil penalty only. I guess the question I have is this information going to be used in a criminal fashion or as a civil penalty only? Does it reflect how we do photo red? I'd like to know what the similarities and the differences are.
Mr. Chairman, photo red is a civil penalty. It looks like 46-844 governs the penalties for passing a stop school bus. And it says that a prosecution, let's see, you are charged with a violation. I'm sorry, I just need a minute to read the section.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Wexton.
I would note that 46.2859 provides that passing a stopped school bus is reckless driving.
Criminal offense.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Chairman, that's kind of my concern is are we unwittingly turning it into a civil penalty by having a system that's not consistent? By putting it in that particular section instead of just governing the release of information.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like when a violation, when you pass a stop school bus and the violation is charged pursuant to this section as opposed to the section that Senator Wexton cited, it would be a civil penalty. And I believe that there's also a bill this session that would not make that civil penalty
Part of
have
your
demerit points on your license. So I think that they are two different sections. One, you can charge, if a police officer is there and actually sees the violation himself, then they can charge in the section that Senator Wexton cited. But if it's a camera violation and there's no person present who's issuing the summons, then it would just be a civil penalty of $250 pursuant to this section.
Mr. Chair,
Senator
but
Dees.
that's already the law, isn't it? That's
Correct.
already, we're not changing that, we're just.
Your bill is only directing who gets the information.
Yeah.
All right, I think you have someone here to speak. All right. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, good afternoon. My name is Jim Foley. I'm the Director of Transportation for Albemarle County. I supervise about 200 bus drivers, but I occasionally get on the bus myself just to see what it's like. As Senator Deeds pointed out, there was a study. There's about 13 million incidents of motorists passing stop school buses each year, and on average, 6 fatalities nationally. All of our drivers in Albemarle County experience these dangerous conditions, and our standard practice is to have drivers, whenever possible, record the license plate of the violator, and this information is shared with our police department. While occasionally of some benefit, this practice is far from a comprehensive preventative program, since the primary responsibility of our drivers is not to record license plates, but to monitor and assist children boarding or exiting the bus. To determine the extent that illegal motorist activity is a threat to our students, we conducted a pilot study a couple of years ago in which some of our buses were equipped with stop arm cameras for 30 days. The objective was to yield a reliable estimate of how often cars sped by a stopped school bus. Based on the results of our study, we estimate that as many as 6,000 such violations occurred each year, or more than 30 violations each single school day. This led to a decision by our school board and board of supervisors to approve a stop arm camera program. There are stop arm camera programs in other jurisdictions around the country. We are encouraged by the results these programs have had in changing illegal behaviors. One statistic that is particularly interesting and impressive is that 99% of motorists who are cited for illegally passing stop school bus never receive another citation. That's a recidivism rate of 1%. We do not have to look across the country to gain an understanding of how important a stop arm camera safety program can be. Our neighbors in Charlottesville, a couple years ago, a second grader was getting ready to cross the street to get on the bus in a 25-mile-per-hour zone, and the car was speeding by the bus. Luckily, the parent saw this getting ready to happen, grabbed the child's hand. The child was grazed but uninjured. But if the parent wasn't there, it probably would have resulted in a fatality. And my counterpart in Charlottesville reports that they have about 10 violations every school day. When I drive, I notice that I probably have 2 people run my lights every 3 times I drive. It's a big problem. I applaud the General Assembly's concern for the safety of school children, their parents, our drivers, and passing legislation that authorizes stop arm cameras on school buses. However, the implementation of this law is blocked because the third-party vendors who supply the camera and report violations to the police do not have authority to match license plates to the names and addresses of vehicle owners. According to our county attorney and our police department, the current code does not allow the police department to share owner information with a third-party vendor. In fact, it is our interpretation that a police officer could be criminally charged for providing owner information to a third party. The existing law does not give explicit permission to DMV to share information as it does for the red light camera. It is vital that this be changed to allow for the proper administration of the stop arm camera program in the same way that current red light camera programs are implemented.
So let me just interrupt you just a second. Help me understand why the police, that are the enforcing agency, should have to share that information with you.
It's onerous would be onerous on our staff and the police staff to administrate something like this. So the way it's worked, I've observed it in Falls Church, right? The way it works is there's a video on the bus. The third party observes the video, sees that it's a violation, forwards that to the police department in the form of a video, and then with the owner, then the police officer checks that it's a violation, and then the owner information is supplied, and the third-party vendor then sends a ticket, $250 ticket for a civil penalty to the owner of the vehicle, and you don't have to prove who the driver was. So that's how it works across the country. So we're just proposing it be for a civil penalty.
Okay. All right, any questions of the speaker?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator West.
I'm not sure whether this is for the speaker or council, or would the reciprocity provisions that Virginia has for like toll violations and things like that apply in this situation to enforce against out-of-state drivers? Because I'm from Loudoun County and we border Maryland and West Virginia, so we have a lot of folks with out-of-state tags.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Wexton, that I don't see any language in this bill that would allow for reciprocity. I think that's something that we could potentially add, but as written, I don't believe that that's an option.
All right.
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Chase. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess just a comment. I share the concern of keeping, as I'm sure most of my colleagues here do, about school safety for kids. In fact, I have a similar bill in that has to do with school zones in a fixed area. I think one of my concerns has to do with making sure we have due process. The second one being that this be reviewed by law enforcement officers. And I'm still concerned and not convinced that using third parties is a great idea. We currently use, at least in Chesterfield, we don't have the red light or whatever y'all talked about. We don't have that, so I have no concept of that, thankfully. So, I'm just trying to, I like the idea of a fixed school zone where people are conditioned to not drive in particular areas, to have a moving school bus. In Chesterfield County is something, that it's never been done. We've never been had cameras and that type of thing. I have a lot of constituents who are concerned about privacy issues and what a private entity would do with that information. So there's not that comfort level, at least in my district, for that type of camera that's not being reviewed specifically by a member of our law enforcement that would be held accountable.
Yeah, we've had a red light program in our county, and I think it's had a positive impact on people running red lights. And a law enforcement officer does have to verify that it was a violation. And the same would be for stop arm cameras. So a law officer has to verify, yes, it was a violation. The third-party vendor simply just sends them possible violations. And all you can see is, I think the safety factor outweighs any kind of privacy concern, in my opinion. And I would just, the amount of times that my drivers drive, it's constant worry that one of their students could get off the bus and get hit by a vehicle.
Right. Senator Favola, I think.
I'm going to move that we report the bill.
Right. There's a motion that we report the bills, or a second? There's a motion and a second that we report Senate Bill 700. All those in favor of reporting Senate Bill 700 vote aye on the electronic voting board. And so
6 ayes, 7 nays.
Bill fails to report 7-6. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator, which one?
Wexton.
Wexton,
Um,
okay.
This motion may be too late, but I think that a lot of folks on this committee are intrigued by this idea, but concerned about some of the issues associated with it. Would this be an appropriate bill for the Joint Commission on Transportation Accountability to look at? Or this particular?
I mean, there's no reason why they can't look at it. I haven't had a conversation with the chairman in the House Transportation on what direction that we want to do as far as studies with the Joint Commission and with Delegate Hugo being the chair of it, we can refer it there and just see what comes out of it.
Mr. Chairman, given the concerns that were raised about the number of times that this happens on a given day and the potential, injuries to children and children's safety, I think it would be a valuable issue for them to consider.
Well, I think the privacy issue is the biggest question. And I don't know if that's the expertise, but we can send it there if that's where you want to send it.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just to,
Senator Favola.
thank you. Just a follow-up to Senator Wexton's suggestion. I would hope this would go with a letter.
Oh, it will.
From you, sort of explaining that we
If
really
this,
need,
if this
is a
committee
problem we
wants
need to
this,
solve.
if the committee wants this to be looked at by the Joint Commission on Transportation Accountability, then it can be done by a letter from me. I haven't talked to either the chairman of the House or Delegate Hugo, who chairs that committee, if this is something that they have an expertise in on the privacy part. I think that's the biggest question.
It works for
But,
it works for red light. I don't see why it wouldn't work for stop arm cameras.
But we'll do a letter. We'll send it there and have them look at it.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I got to reconsider the vote. Yeah. All right, there's a motion and a second to reconsider the vote in which we failed to pass Senate Bill 700. All in favor, vote aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
And now there's a motion that we continue Senate Bill 700 till 2019 with a letter to send this to the study on the Joint Commission on Transportation Accountability. And there's a second. All in favor, vote aye. All right.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Senator McClellan. Last two, and I think yours are pretty pretty straightforward, and yeah, it's fine.
The first one is Senate Bill 291 that just codifies existing budget language from the 2017 budget that authorized DMV to create the electronic titling and registration programs, including the online dealer program and the electronic lien program. I think the idea is just by codifying them, it gives participants a place in the code to look for them. And I have the commissioner here who can answer any questions.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. We're just codifying what's in the budget from last year. All right, it's been a motion and a second that we report Senate Bill 291. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13-0. 359, I think.
All right,
we may have
359, under current law, the DMV commissioner may waive driver instructor training programs for former state police officers who wish to teach driver's education, but only former state police officers. What this bill would do is allow the DMV commissioner to waive such requirements for a former local police officer who would have qualifications to teach driver's ed. I believe.
I have an amendment if you're acceptable just to make sure they have the training in the traffic, because a lot of other agencies do initially a couple years, and then they go into the criminal investigation side and don't operate in that field very often.
In concept, I am do support your amendments. I do have, this was requested by a constituent who's a former police officer from Henrico. I think he had a suggestion to your amendment. So I don't know if you want to hear from him.
I think council shared that. I'm fine with that. I just want to know that they have a background before we waive any qualifications.
Okay.
If you'll report that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 61, after service, insert as a traffic enforcement officer with patrol experience.
Yep.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Marsden.
question for patron. I've never quite gotten the nexus between being a former police officer and being able to teach people how to drive. I understand they're good drivers. I understand they know the rules of the road. But in terms of teaching kids and knowing how to do that, isn't some of the instruction that goes on, involve how to teach and how to handle people as opposed to just knowing the rules?
Well, this is all permissive, so the DMV commissioner can put whatever parameters around that authorization that he wants. And my understanding is there's been no problem with the way the law works currently with former state police officers who, as you pointed out, who have enforced the traffic laws and therefore understand them. And so, but it's kind of arbitrary to say a former police officer could have the ability to teach, but a former local police officer couldn't. So all this is doing is, so long as they have the appropriate training and the DMV commissioner is comfortable that they have the ability to teach in class, the commissioner can give them the authority to teach.
I can give you a little history, and this may date me back, but 33 years ago when I began to work for the state police, we taught driver's education. We were the ones, instead of the teachers, that taught it. And then as the years progressed and the demands got higher for law enforcement, the teachers began to be certified within the school system to teach that program. But we would go in occasionally and teach a part of the DMV class. So, over the years, it's kind of changed to just in the classroom with a certified teacher through DMV to do it and taking the law enforcement out of the aspect of it. But the majority of us that taught that went through instructor school. I was an instructor at the academy. I instructed at the school. So we had the teaching qualifications and the expertise in that field, and that's one of the reasons I thought it was important to have some kind of an amendment that individual had that experience in traffic safety in order to teach it. But for years, we were the ones that taught that program.
Mr. Chairman, so if I could, so a police officer hasn't gone through any training on how to teach it, and
I don't think DMV would let them
do that. Does DMV have any parameters around what instructors must, what kind of knowledge they should have if they've been certified as instructors, pass some kind of a test or whatever, or just being a police officer with traffic experience qualifies you?
I think that you have the reins to say who the instructor is and what their qualifications are.
We do, sir, and I'm Sharon Brown from Department of Motor Vehicles. And there are, right now, for a driver to be trained, excuse me, to teach at one of the driver training schools, they go to community college and there's 2 courses that they need to take.
That's what I was getting at. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, prior to, and just to follow up with that, prior to you teaching a driver's education course, you had to complete a instructor's course with the department and be able to articulate your ability to teach before you could ever go into the school and do that. So, Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. Chairman, just kind of expanding on Senator Morrison's question. You know, if I'm going to be taking combat flight training, the last thing I want is somebody that just has a degree and hasn't been in combat flight himself. Basically, police officers, especially patrol officers, have seen things that no classroom teacher have ever seen or will ever see. They've seen it all. They bring a unique perspective into the classroom. Now, I understand there's the question of can they actually teach, but with DMV having reins over, you know, what they can do, I think this bill makes all kinds of sense, and I think that they will be the best driving instructors that will be in the school system. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have someone that wants to speak?
I think this is Park Slater who requested it. I think if you have any further questions to Senator Morrison's point,
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Morrison, to your point, I'm a retired police sergeant from Henrico County, retired with 32 years service. To your point, I agree with you that just because that you're a law enforcement officer doesn't necessarily mean that. My proposal in this bill would pretty much leave what is there intact. But for those other law enforcement officers, local officers like myself, we have been DCJS certified as drill instructors to learn how to teach, to your point, which is well taken. And also beyond that, to be EVOC instructors, emergency vehicle instructors. And there's a little bit of a misnomer in that fast driving, emergency driving is a small part, because it is, I'm sure that the chair can attest to as well, most police vehicle accidents occur in parking lots, backing up, or at low speeds and not at high speeds. So the crux of that is driver education, being able to correct bad habits, being able to identify. One of the things in particular, one of the leading causes of teenage fatalities is rollovers from overcorrection after running off the road. We teach that, and being able to, over the years, I've been teaching driving, taught driving in a police venue for over 20 years. Being able to take that post-career and impart that information to young drivers is what I hope this bill will enable us to do. But I agree with your point that there needs to be some kind of qualification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mindy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Mindy Carlin. I represent iDriveSmart, which is actually a private sector driver's education company that was started by a retired police officer. All of his instructors are either current or retired police officers. They do go through all of the required training in getting those courses at community college system. We now can get that through not for credit as well as for credit due to some legislation that you passed a few years ago. But we did not ask for this legislation, but we absolutely support it and definitely support that nexus between police officers and law enforcement and teaching our kids, and Senator Cosgrove's point that there really is no better person to teach our kids about driver safety. So I urge your support for the bill. Thank you.
Great. Move and second that we report the bill as amended. All in favor, vote aye on the electronic voting board. Start my own. I drive fast.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. That completes our docket for today. I think we're on schedule to try to get 19 to 20 bills out so we can finish our docket. We've done very good so far. We've limited ourselves to bills that we carry over. So if we can continue this pace, we'll get done and not have to have an extra meeting. So thank everybody for your patience. We're adjourned.